from a podcast called "This Podcast Is Making Me Thursday Want to Talk to You," and I think and I said, you don't have to tell me what it's about. I said, if it's called "This Podcast Is Making Me Thirsty," you definitely don't need to tell me what it's about, and I'm going on. This is what I want to do.
It's a Seinfeld podcast. It's called "This Podcast Is Making Me Thirsty." But I thought, this is what a podcast should be.
I just did the Seinfeld guys pod the other day. I came up with
these pretzels are making me thirsty.
Oh,
that one. Shout out. We've done it. I've done it. Have you did it?
I've not gotten a chance to do it yet. I'm looking forward to it.
It's so fun. They're so fun.
When I don't know, it must have shown up in my feed, but I see these guys tweeting about Seinfeld. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I find it's a podcast called "This Podcast Is Making Me Thirsty."
One of the most popular Seinfeld podcasts is "This Podcast Is Making Me Thirsty," co-hosted by Chris O'Hara and Tony Chulin.
This podcast is making me thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is 2 Up and 2 Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of 2 Up and 2 Down. And today, season 2, the phone message. So, Chris, over to you. What's your first up here?
The phone message, February 13th of 91. All you trivia guys out there, we know that the Larry Charles episode was canceled, and Larry David put it together in 2 days, and boy, did he put it together. So this is February 91, Wednesday. It's actually the least rated episode of all time, Seinfeld. 13.6 million. Back then, they'll get you off the air. Today, it will get you a 5-year contract. Unbelievable how times have changed. But Seinfeld was the lead into Hunter. We all loved Hunter. Hunter was on right after this. Went up against Jake and the Fat Man on CBS that night. And on ABC, Anything But Love. Do you guys remember the show Richard Lewis and Jamie Lee Curtis? So, yeah. So a little Larry David versus Richard Lewis back in 1991 here. Okay, so here we go. An all-time episode. Lots of ups. Where do I start? You know what? I love the scene when, again, this is going to be the second half of the scene, okay? George says, everyone out of the apartment, I got to make a phone call. And that phone call. So they all leave and, he picks up, hey, remember me? And we've all been there. This is the day with answer machines, right? So whatever you say, that's it. There's no, back on your phone and listen to it and change what you said. This is it. You're out there, baby. And George says, it was fun. You call me back. Ball's in your court. All right, take it easy. And he just he hung up. And then obviously Jerry and Elaine came in. And I every time I see that scene, the way he struggles, he didn't have of course, he asked Jerry for the apple right before that, enough for the apple. I loved it. I mean, his panic, it was almost as if I know he was acting, which is how incredible an actor he is, but it felt like he wasn't acting. That's how, just genuine and real it felt. And, when you lived in that era with the answer machine, you better get it right. Tony talks a lot with George. He used to write notes and stuff, so he would always be clear on what he was going to say. And that was mostly for conversation, but just in case you got that machine, you got to be ready with something positive to say. So that little scene packed a lot for me. And, take it easy. Love that ending. To that quick little scene. So that's my first up.
Hey, all right, there you go. Great up there. So, Tony, over to you. What's your first up here?
Yeah, great stuff there. You mentioned Jake and the Fat Man. I know Jerry talks about that. They're beating him the ratings. The answer machine stuff. We all know the scene from Swingers. This predates that for anyone out there that doesn't really remember this stuff live. I mean, this was it, like O'Hara mentioned, answer machine. Listen, the phone message, and I'll just get this out now before even the grades. This was the 9th episode of all time. And to me, this was the one that really hooked me. If anyone asked me when did you so, the first 5, the first season and the pilot, they were good. I'm okay. This show's not bad. Then season 2 starts with ex-girlfriend. Okay, this is all right. I'm still watching. Then it goes pony remark, jacket, I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And then the phone message, and now I'm like, this is it. I'm hooked on this show. Probably the one episode that hooked me on the show more than anything else. To Harris' point, these were adults. They were supposed to be adults. We're watching this 1991. What is it, 91, right? So, 13 years old, 12 years old. This is adults. Adults act like us the same way. They're afraid to call the whole thing. And it starts with my first up, which is the first scene. George and Jerry talking about we like to say this is what the show is all about, is this conversation. Lloyd calls him a wuss. I mean, are you kidding me? Called me a wuss. I got a mental state like the karate guys, the whole cover my nervousness. I ate an apple. The enthusiastic high. If I don't get the enthusiastic high about it, I mean, that conversation back and forth is absolutely brilliant. To Harris' point, Larry David wrote this in a day or 2 days, whatever it was. The epitome of the show right there is that conversation. Jerry throws in, loiter around, get the money in your hand, you get out, great day in the morning. I can't tell you how many times I say great day in the morning. I use that line once a weekend. Great day in the morning. They both got a date. Unbelievable conversation. I mean, I'm going off here, but it's as good as it gets. That's my first up, is that first opening scene. Boom, right into it. The two of them just talking about the conversation. Just like two kids. Love it. That's my first up.
Yeah, I think at any age, those two scenes are very relatable to viewers, and that's why, like you said, Tony, this is the stuff that hooked you into Seinfeld, and that's why writing like that was why the first few seasons were so great to watch and tune in to see. So, Chris, over to you. What's your second up?
Yeah, I know my partner loved that opening scene. It's probably a top fiver for him of all time. So let him have that bone. And listen, this is Jerry and George episode. Like, any way you shake it, a lot of these early ones are Jerry and George, and there's nothing wrong with that. But so yeah. So you know what? The outside the apartment building with them sitting on that little low wall. I mean, just even that, just great, like New York feel. Just felt a little darker, and wherever they were they Midtown because they were going to take Jerry uptown. But back to that conversation, obviously Tippy Toe, Lemon Tree, the whole thing, and then singing the song. Not Peter Paul Mary, no Trini Lopez. Loved it. I mean, and then the panic. Well, hold on. And then Jerry, do you have the tapes? Standard. I love how he pulls it out. I just I don't know. Jerry was great. His stupid little faces pulling out the tape. Yeah,
Taps on his legs.
It's happening. Yeah, exactly. It was just it felt so natural and real, like they weren't acting, right? Just two buddies, and then George panicking. All right, forget it. Cancel the whole thing. And then obviously, I'll just stay with that scene before they go up. Jerry's got to use the bathroom, and George pulls her aside. He's essentially a prima donna. He can't go in public. And then Jerry's just sitting there in the background with a silly little face. Gets me every time. So Trini Lopez, obviously Tippy Toe, Lemon Tree. I mean, geez, how'd they come up with that? Right? How did they come up with that? But it's forever in lore. We use it all the time, obviously. But them outside that apartment building, to your point earlier, the children, right? So it kept going throughout the whole episode, which is fantastic. So that's my second thumbs up.
Thank you, Chris. Tony, your second up here, please.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. I know how much O'Hara loves that scene. We both, I mean, Tippy Toe Lemon Tree is obviously a staple with the podcast. We use it all the time. It's you want to talk catchphrases of Seinfeld. For us, it's Tippy Toe Lemon Tree. All right, it's not a yada yada yada. But anyway, let's move on to the second up. I mean, those were two big ups. That scene alone. Listen, I think to Harris' point, it's obviously a George and Jerry episode. I use this line all the time too. Scottish, Irish. What's the difference, Lassie? Jerry with I have no tolerance for lactose, and I will not stand for it. I had to tell my friends, and I have to tell you. I mean, those three right there for me. You got a regular Algonquin table there. I bet. He just loves ripping on this chick. The whole thing. Gretchen loved Gretchen. Had her on the show. Unbelievable. Great. pants. Why do I wear tan pants? I just threw a bunch of lines out there. My up is that the Jerry's feeling his oats here. This is just the 9th episode all time, folks. He hasn't been doing this for years. They barely got picked up. This is early season 2. I mean, Jerry's feeling it, man. He's feeling it. I think he understands. Okay, the show is now going to be about George. The first couple of episodes kind of focused on Jerry, especially that first 5-episode season, if you want to call it that. Now they finally said, we got Costanza here. We got Larry David here. Let's make him the show. Jerry does his thing on the side, throwing in some funny lines. So I'm going to give Jerry a bone on that because I thought he delivered those lines great. I like Jerry in this episode. That's my second up.
Good stuff. Yeah, I love those Jerry lines too. So Jerry all together right there is a good pick. So Chris, those are the ups. Let's start the downs. What's your first one?
Downs are very, very tough to come by. A challenge, if you will. I got one, then after that, depending on what he does, I don't know where I'm going. But here it goes. And I talk about this a lot with Jerry, being such a square. Although this is an interesting one. He's sitting there drinking orange juice on the couch.
Not only that, I said O'Hara's going with the orange juice.
What's interesting though is a couple scenes later,
could have been a screwdriver, by the way. Could have been a screwdriver. You maybe some vodka.
No chance. But what's interesting is he pulls out the white wine later, which is fascinating. But not only that with the orange juice, but just to use that scene a little bit, he's on the couch with her, okay, with the orange juice. And he's asking her about, do you want to go out Thursday night? Like, dude, you got she's right here. What are we talking about Thursday night already? Close the deal here, Jerry. You know what I mean? So that was a little odd. Like focus on tonight. He's always getting ahead of himself, drinking the orange juice. It didn't sit well because, listen, they were, to your point, they were in the car together, just like George, right, in the car together. And then they ended up saying, hey, come back to my place. And then he's already asking about the next Thursday. Like, no, this is the Thursday, essentially. So a little off. Again, they're working things out there. I get it. But yeah, I guess the common theme is the orange juice. You knew I was going there.
All right, Jerry drinking juice. All right, it's a down. All right, Tony, over to you. What's your first down?
Yeah, I knew you're going the orange. It is funny though. He's drinking orange juice of all things. It's like, come on. But I like his line. There's no cookies if that's what you're looking for. I mean, Jerry was so smooth with that. I thought about the Thursday thing actually when I rewatched it again today. I thought about the Thursday thing. I feel like he was maybe just making sure that he's in. Like if she said, "Oh, I'll do something next Thursday," okay, I'm in for today. Then I mean, maybe he wasn't trying to get a feel. That's the only thing I think of, but I agree, a little odd. No, my down. I mean, I have nothing written down really, but this one I never liked this one. We call it a Jerry and George episode. It is a Jerry and George episode. Elaine's line. I mean, the germs are building a town in there. The condos are going for $200. Whatever she did, there was that line in there when she talked about the guy she woke up with because his bathtub was dirty. I mean, very bad joke. I mean, I think they were just like, we have to Elaine, say something here, and they just threw a joke in there. I never liked it. I thought it's more of a Jerry joke than an Elaine joke, and I think they just gave it to Elaine because they had to give Elaine something to do. And so that's what they gave her, that like germ joke. I mean, that's what I'm going for down here, folks. I got nothing else written down. It's her idea for the switch. That's really what they gave her, but I'm not going that as a down. I'm saying my down is really the germs joke. That's all I got for a down is Elaine's bad germ joke. Not a lot of Elaine, but I'm not even giving that a down because you didn't, like I mentioned, you don't need Elaine in this episode. So, but I thought if you're going to give her something better than that. So that's my down.
Yeah, if you were to say a down, not enough Elaine in this episode, but you're right. This is still early enough where they probably didn't have enough material really written for her yet. So yeah, I see your point there. Chris, over to you. What do you got for your second down?
Yeah, I'm struggling here as well, and I hate to double down on Elaine, but why not? Since it's not an Elaine episode, and you mentioned the switching of the tape, and this one always caught me. Elaine mentioning her brother-in-law. Well, ain't brother-in-law. She don't have a sister or brother. Did I miss something here? All we know is Alton Bennis, and they just that was the episode before, and now she's mentioned brother-in-law, blurted out some business information she wasn't supposed to.
Didn't she have a sister in St. Louis
Maybe you're
from the
right.
airport episode?
Maybe you're right, and you're catching me. You call me out on that, but all right, fine. Let's say she does. Either way, I didn't need the story, I guess, of the tape. Like she could have just given the idea, and that would have been fine. Like who cares if it's a problem? It could have been anybody, And the story of the lost business, they went upstairs, switched the tape. It's nitpicky, believe me, but I just think it was just add. Here's where I liked Elaine in this episode. Okay, was maybe she just likes you. She played well in that scene when George was doing the NORAD stuff, and then like Tony's down, and then this down. It was just like a little out of place and extra where we didn't need it, and it kind of forced her into telling a story about switching the tape, where she could just said, "Hey, why don't you just switch the tape?" Like I don't think we needed the additive story about the brother-in-law who, again, who knew? Who knew? Yeah, the airport. I think they mentioned you're right, but either way, Elaine's a slight down there as well. In an episode where those are hard to find.
Thank you, Chris. So yeah, those are the ups and the downs here. Tony, I want to switch it back to you and get your final thoughts here of the phone message.
I got to get my second down.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, it's interesting because I was going to say about that. The Elaine stuff. That seems to me what's even funnier is later on that wouldn't have been an Elaine idea, Elaine suggestion. I think that would have been a Kramer suggestion, or George would have just done it. But again, they were still feeling things out. This is ninth episode all time. Larry David just started, wrote this really quickly. The fact that she gave the idea was odd to be kind of begin with there, if you ask me. But Father West Thinkers in the pool, we didn't even mention. That's more of an up. I'm not giving grades yet. Yeah, listen, you're not going to like my second down. But I don't love the ending. I'm sorry. I think we kind of talked about this with Tori Pallone when we talked to her. It's great guest we had on the show. It just ended so odd. It's ended very sitcom-y. I love jokes like that. Like that's what we're gonna go with. The whole thing was a joke to her. Like George is telling her to F off, and by instead of the whole thing, I let off like Mussolini from a balcony, and she's just gonna at the end of the whole thing just be like, I love jokes like that, and then kind of just end it like that. We never see her again. That means they were hitting it off pretty well. They like each other. Didn't understand why we didn't bring her back. We didn't end it in any weird way. It ended happily, which usually these things don't end happily. So if I'm going to nitpick something, I get it. It's kind of a laugh at the end. It's a great 1991 sitcom ending. Can't knock it too much, but never really loved it, how it kind of ended that way. So as it's one of those things that's always bothered me. So the fact that I'm using it as a down is pretty easy for me because it's just one of those things that I didn't always love. So that's my second down is the ending. I think it could have, it was a little too, funny, like nice ending, like, oh, I love jokes like that. And ha ha ha, Jerry gives George the look and everything. But that's my second down.
Yeah, well, also she spoils their efforts. I mean, they did it all for nothing, so didn't have to go through all that because she thought it was such a great, funny thing. So yeah, kind of a twist there. That it really didn't work out the way they planned, but it still works out because she still likes them. So anyway, so that means, Chris, I'm going back to you to start the final thoughts and grades.
Yeah, and I didn't mind the ending at all, but great impersonation here by Tony. I love jokes like that. He sounded just like Tori Pallone. And listen, keep in mind, this is a girl who wanted to take George upstairs to do what on the first date, and look, he's a bald guy. So that's okay. I don't see her getting mad about things like that. I think she's just cutesy. She's probably from the Midwest. Probably thought it was being jokesy, and yeah, you brought up the Mussolini from the balcony. I mean, what a line! I mean, I'm picturing George making these phone calls. You son of a bitch! Incredible stuff. You mentioned the opening scene. You mentioned the two car scenes. A cup of coffee that keeps me up at night. Nothing much better than coffee keeps me up at night, and coffee's not coffee. We know the line. Tan pants. My friends aren't supposed to say anything. We talk about it's a George and Jerry episode. It is. It's foundational. Okay. Elaine and Kramer were just good compliments. Like Kramer coming in just for cotton dockers like that. Those ba-boom ba-boom. George obviously, I'll leave, and then you like the cotton dockers, the whole thing, and then Kramer comes in, unbelievable stuff. Even Kramer telling his joke, that was pretty funny, and Elaine just like, again, a lot of this just felt like really organic laughter and natural. And maybe it was. They wrote this thing in 2 days. There wasn't much time. So incredible job by the actors, the writers, the whole thing. Tippy we mentioned. It's the damnedest thing. It went away. I mean, Jerry in the apartment, and I love that apartment. I know they use that apartment a lot, but just little things like that matter. And Jerry, hey, you guys, I'm ready to go. I love that. And then that's obviously Tony's down when she talks about that. And I know where you're from. I seen you on the Tonight Show. George, that is so rude. And he pulls her back. I mean, so much going on here. But at the core of it all, what the show is all about, Tony said it well. Two friends trying to figure it out, trying to get ahead, whether it's with work or with women, and they do it in a way that is just of adolescence. Phone message an A+. No other way to shake it. It's all-time writing. The guy did it in 2 days. You're going to tell me not enough Kramer Lane. I'm going to say not enough George and Jerry. I mean, from top to bottom, to beginning to end, I thought it's an ultimate episode. Again, we talk A+ range. We can mix and match any of these top 10, perhaps, that get A+. On any given day, this could be 1 through 10, you name it. But for me, it's an all-timer. It just it pulls at every string you want as a Seinfeld fan. And to Tony's point, may not have been the huge launch pad, but boy, it's the core of what the whole show is about.
Yeah, excellent wrap up there. So yeah, you hit all the points of why this is such a great episode. So thank you, Chris. And Tony, over to you. What do you got here for your final thoughts?
Yeah, listen, coffee's not coffee. Coffee's sex. Are you kidding me? This again, I keep going back to this predates swingers because I keep remembering there's more swinger references. The whole, George says, I'm planning a Wednesday call. That's kind of a swingers thing too. And then when you call back the woman, and then the phone message stuff was obviously all the swingers. This predates all that. Just to throw that out there. O'Hara hit every nail on the head there. A couple of things there. Instead of doing laundry, just keep buying new pairs of underwear. My goal is to have 350 pairs of underwear. Use that line all the time. I love that. It's a great insight into George. I'm glad he mentioned the Kramer joke. It's a great Kramer joke. Ambulance is stuffing down bacon, egg, and cheese every morning. Lane gives a nice laugh on that one. Lemon tree, very pretty. The whole thing there. My father wears sneakers in the pool, which I think George comes back with later on when they're talking about their parents. It's everything about this episode is amazing. To O'Hara's point, yes, was there enough Elaine? I gave Elaine a little bit of a down. Kramer comes in, does a couple of things here and there, but it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Just if you think about it, I was thinking about this too. Like 1991. Most sitcoms didn't have 4 characters doing everything every single episode. It was like the star of the show, and that was it. Seinfeld didn't even start doing that until a little bit later on into deeper into season 2, when Larry, it clicked with Larry. Oh, we'll give them all something to do. So this isn't like, this is what a show should be. This is your watch. This is as good as a show gets. To O'Hara's point, Larry David just wrote this thing in a couple of days. They threw this thing together. To me, it's George's coming out episode. If you look at the episodes like they were on before this, none of them, George dominated like he dominated this. The stakeout was all about Jerry. The robbery was all about Jerry. Mail and bonding is all about Jerry. Stock tip, pretty much all Jerry. Ex-girlfriend, pony remark, Jacket. Jacket was when we started seeing a little bit of George, with Alton, but this was it. This was George. I think maybe that gun episode not happening, gave Larry David the confidence. I'm going to write this fucking thing about me, make George the guy. Coffee's not coffee, coffee's sex. A plus. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Like O'Hara mentioned, I think we ranked this number one at one point. You ask me tomorrow, it's probably number one. It could be, the top 10 can move around, but this is always going to have a place at the top of the list. A plus phone mess.
Well, yeah, there you go, folks. A plus all around for the phone message, which is why season 2 should be on everybody's radar. So thank you guys, and we'll hope everybody tunes back for our next episode.